tuning into the 5th episode of Inspire Forward Podcast. Mi nombre is Angelo Calderon, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about emotional echoes. And you know how I am? I got to get straight to it. So let's get to it. Basically, what is an emotional echo? An emotional echo is a pattern of behaviors and also emotional responses that come from our past experiences that are shaping our present reactions. So that's the vital part to understand right there, that it shapes our present reactions. And it's a reaction, not an action. Action takes, consciousness to really make that kind of decision. A reaction is something that you don't make a conscious decision, you react. But an example of all this that I would say for you to understand all this is, imagine growing up and you constantly take on criticism or you feel inadequate. Then, as an adult, when you get criticism, you might be overly sensitive to that. Or you could also, I would like to say that if you're feeling the inadequacy, you're getting self doubt thoughts. And all of this really harms our emotional responses. It also harms our reactions. So, in the gist of it, the things that you get or the things that you go through from your previous experiences and the emotional reactions you create, they follow us all the way up into adulthood and then continue. The reason I wanted to talk about all this is because of the fact that it's really, really important nowadays to understand mental health. That is something that should have been important a long time ago, but it's getting there. It's getting there, and we're creating awareness here and there within our communities, and I'm so happy about it. But mental health is getting bigger, and we should strive to have these mental health techniques and practices and awareness all throughout our lives. Kids should grow up understanding what mental health is, because they're going through life trying to figure it out. We are going through life trying to figure this out all the way up until we die. Some of us think we got to figure it out. We don't. Some of us are aware we don't got to figure it out. This is one of those things that are going to help us feel okay when we don't have it figured out, feel okay, and help us figure out what we can. And that's an important thing to understand. A lot of us don't realize that an important thing to understand is figure out what you can and be happy because you figured that out. But other things as well, we can have different things of this and that nature that can really hinder our reality. The important thing is, with this specific case, is understanding our emotional responses. So what this can really come to if you fail to understand this kind of thing, if you fail to practice it, if you fail to really even acknowledge it because you feel like it doesn't really contribute to your life, if you feel like it's not anything worth to you, well, it can really affect the relationships you have with others. It can affect the relationship you have with yourself, and it can even affect the well-being of yourself as well. The reason being is, when you have emotional responses of, let's say, the criticism, oversensitivity to criticism, that affects the way you react to others, because the criticism comes from someone else. Or inadequacy, feeling like you're not enough constantly. How are you able to progress as a person if you constantly feel this? And then even worse, if you don't even know why. If you don't know why, you can't even pinpoint or identify what is causing all of this behavior, all these things that are going through your mind, making you feel worse and worse and worse, and then just emotionally damaging you. We can't get anywhere without understanding, being aware, and taking proactive measures against emotional echoes. So understanding the emotional echoes really empowers us to break free of these kinds of chains that hold us back. As an adult, you might find it really hard because it's healing. Sometimes when it comes to emotional healing, it's the hardest thing there is to do. It's trauma. It's something that you don't want to really look at anymore. You don't want to relive. You don't want to potentially be re-triggered. But the thing is, if you want to grow, if you want to develop yourself personally, you have to be able to face your emotional echoes and make the choices that are going to allow you to grow. So I would take into consideration that fact that these things hinder us, our relationships, and our well-being. The other thing I would say is where could you start? Where could you start? This is a very beginner friendly thing as well, because emotional echoes, they affect all of us. But it's beginner friendly to be able to combat this. That's the best part. You can really start by beginning to reflect on your past emotional experiences, identifying things like reoccurring patterns and also triggers. That's the easy part. Some of us already know what our triggers are. Some of us already know what's really bothering us. The easy part is that. Now, to get into the hard part is to actually do the work. But that's the rewarding part. The rewarding part is when you do the work, because you'll see the results, sometimes almost instantaneously. You'll see those kinds of results where you feel the relief on yourself, that you don't hear those voices anymore of just you're not enough or they're trying to attack you. I relate a little bit to the criticism one. I wouldn't say I'm overly sensitive. I'm a little sensitive from my past experience, but I would say I relate to that one a little bit. I feel like I do a good job of identifying when I'm being a little sensitive, and my work around it to be able to overcome that is just being more accountable and taking responsibility for my actions, being responsible for results, which is a really, really hard one, because sometimes a result happens even though you did everything right and it still goes against what you were expecting. And it's a hard one. But that one is still taking responsibility. But that's a whole other thing for another day. So we'll leave that one where it is. But yeah, that's something that I think helps me. And there are many techniques that help others for various different things that they're going through. And a few of them that make changes in people's lives that anyone can use are, let's say, mindfulness and gratitude. That's a really good beginner friendly one. Mindfulness is something that everyone's heard of, it's something that a lot of people practice. And mindfulness is just taking the time to live in the present moment, which is a tough one for some people who are like me, who need like defined rules, what you're looking for, kind of thing. But anyone can do. It doesn't take long to really start practicing mindfulness. Gratitude, I would say, is a major one that nobody talks about enough. Being gratitude for many numerous things that happen in your life, being gratitude for the various things that reoccur in your life every single day, it makes a great impact on your emotional well-being throughout that day as well. And then also, when you have more positive experiences daily, because of being more positively grateful for what you have, you're right there in that moment changing the course of how you react emotionally. I would say that one's very instantaneous as well. A harder one, I'm not gonna lie, this one's harder. A harder one for people to practice is forgiveness and reconciliation. Forgiveness is a really tough one because we all go through it. We have embarrassing things we wish we could take back. We have really negative experiences we wish we could take back. But forgiveness is a 100% needed um, technique. Reconciliation is basically that you reconcile with the fact that you've committed something but move forward. And so forgiveness is hard, essentially, yes, but if you could do it, if you can start practicing in little ways, you make the difference in this entire world for yourself and for others. Because remember, we are a community of people who want to grow. We are a community of people that want to be better, and we want to create a better world by having numerous people who are seeking the same thing. But we hinder that if we have negative relationship with ourselves, and a terrible well-being. The kind of mindset we should have with ourselves is that we deserve and that we believe that we can have a life full of fulfillment, full of great and positive things. It's kind of hard to get that kind of lifestyle if you can't even forgive yourself for the numerous things you might have committed that you wish you could take back and wish you could change. I know I've been there, done that. but that's what's necessary. So if you're on that part of your journey, forgiveness, I would say for fortitude, for solidification in the foundation you've created, or to create a foundation, remember what it's for. It's to better yourself. It's needed. And remember to reconcile in these things. This next one I would say is more personal to me. I feel like it helps me a lot. I feel like it's something that's valuable to everyone. Those are my personal beliefs. I would say that having a relationship with God. I have a relationship with God that where prayer, meditation, and also reading scripture help with these emotional echoes. For a lot of us, that's already something we utilize. For the rest of us, that might not be something that you would think about. That might not be something that you would consider. I just have one thing to say to that. I'm not even calling out some type of denomination, or I'm not saying religion. What I'm saying is having a personal relationship with God, point blank, period. And having that really helps with an emotional reaction that you are trying to combat. The reason being is I like to rely on myself for as much as I can. But at times, I need to rely on others. And for me, God is someone I rely on heavily the most. For a lot of you, that might be perfect. For a lot of you, wouldn't consider it. But if we are people of personal growth, we are people who want to seek and better ourselves, shutting down or being closed to different ideas, different concepts, different techniques, whatever it may be, it's not really kind of the characteristic that entails with us for people who are seeking personal growth, who are seeking personal development. So that's where I would leave that at. I would suggest that I use it personally, the reading, the prayer in my life. I have a relationship with God, and that helps me with the issues I've faced in my past. But all of this is what I want to say is just what you should take away from this is holistic healing. Look inward. Look for the things in your life that are difficult, that you don't understand why, and make the changes. It is emotionally connected to you some way, somehow. And a more personal definition of it, I would say that involve a relationship with God to be able to heal these echoes from the past. And lastly, have some hope. Have some hope in renewal of yourself. This is probably the most difficult thing to understand is that a lot of us, we do various things to empower ourselves, to break free from various change, and we do our best. Yet we don't believe enough in ourselves. We don't believe enough in what we're doing to make progress for ourselves. So have hope. If you have an emotional echo really making a difference in your present day life and it shouldn't, well, have belief that any technique that you practice, any technique that maybe that I suggested, that it actually does work. Because having belief is the first step that you can make the change for yourself. Or else you won't see anything. You want to see significant results, start with that. Have some hope that what you're doing is making all of the world difference. And then understand that through all of it, you will feel renewed, you will feel the difference in your life. And that's what we need. We need that as a community. So, practice, keep in mind of all those things, and I can't wait for you to tune in to the next episode.